this is a legitimate idea. So I'll throw in my a good sponsor plug to tie in with this one. Carnivore Wine. Okay, they encourage you to barbecue and have a wine, whatever's cool. So when I barbecue, and I love to barbecue. Do you like to barbecue, Brad?
I do.
Yeah, you're a bar. Yeah, I think you told us that like a couple months ago. I when it does get colder, I do find it a bit of a discouragement to go outside in the winter to barbecue and like maintain that burger or that steak or whatever. So I want to create within the barbecue surface, kind of like they do with the rotisserie for chicken. It's an automatic flipper. Like, so they invent like a flipper, and then it's just every 2 minutes it flips your burger for you. And then, or if you have a steak, you can time it exactly to your barbecue. You can go out and just go in 8 minutes, pick it up, and go inside. Like, I feel like there's something there.
Like a robotic barbecue flipper?
Yeah.
Dude, it could even have a thermometer inside to check the temperature.
And then it goes to your app.
And
oh my God. Lets you know where it's at. We should probably even be saying this on radio.
Yeah, shh.
Yeah, would you invest?
That's a moneymaker.
Yeah, that's a moneymaker.
I think it's a tremendous idea.
But okay.
I have no money for you.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Go out and do it yourself first.
The Todd Shapiro Show.
My man, how you doing?
Good. I'm good, thanks.
How are you? Do you like coming? I mean, we're not as professional as you're everywhere these days. You're doing all these news reports and stuff. Is it interesting for you to come in here in this sort of Wayne's World atmosphere? Is it?
The funny thing is it like when you see television, like network television news on TV, it looks really good. But when you actually go there and you see where they're filming it, it's kind of shit. Like it's nothing like you imagine. It's not like that TV show, The Newsroom.
Yes.
It ain't like that.
Doesn't look like that at all. No, I did a thing over at CTV National News when Scott Weiland died, and we had his last interview ever on this station, and like I guess we didn't really know at the time he was messed up, but I guess he was and stuff. And you're on Peaks.com right now. Go to Peaks.com if you want to see us. And I remember I'm going on national news, and I was so excited, and they literally threw me in a closet, and I was talking to someone in Ottawa just through this. I could only hear them, I couldn't see them, and I guess they put Toronto background behind me. And I had no idea. I was like, what am I doing? I thought to myself, because I was worried that I wouldn't perform as well because it was just a weird zone. Is it kind of like some of the stuff you experienced?
It's not that glamorous. I was in CBC, the main building. I mean, it's a nice building, but they told me they use I think they told me they're now using a third of it. And the rest is empty.
That empty. Abdul used to be on This Hour's 22 Minutes. Was that a good set?
It used to film in Halifax, so I think it was half of it was a trailer. It was actually, I swear to you, it was a trailer. There was rats, there was mice. The second floor of the building, because it was like a trailer. The 22 Minutes, part of it of the CBC building was an actual trailer, and then the writers would be in the CBC building. But the second floor is where they would write, and the third floor it was cleared out because they found asbestos. And that's Canadian show business.
Do you Brad? Do you like those sort of parody shows? Do you watch the SNLs or the Canadian ones that we do here? Is that?
I don't watch the Canadian ones at all. I'm sure they're great, but there's only so much bandwidth, to watch TV. I used to watch Saturday Night Live a lot. I watch it sometimes. I think the Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton stuff's very funny.
It's amazing.
Very clever, yeah.
I loved when Alec Baldwin was. I mean, his Trump's great, and
he's amazing.
Really is. And who knew he'd do it? But I loved when he ripped into his own brother. I don't know, on the last one, Stephen Baldwin.
Oh, I didn't see the last one.
Oh, it was amazing because Stephen's a Trump supporter, and he actually went out and just called his own brother. I can only imagine what that relationship's like. It's fucking nuts. But are you as it gets closer? Are you sort of still following what's going on in the U.S.?
No, I follow a lot. I'm very up to date on what's going on. I got to say this. So I would agree with Donald Trump that the election is being fixed, but not, I think, in the way that the media is trying to focus on. How it's being fixed is through the media. Outside of Fox News, every single other media outlet is playing 95% Trump and 5% Hillary Clinton. And so what they fail to understand, whenever I turn on CNN, it's always about Donald Trump. It's like 20 minutes of Donald Trump and oh, by the way, Hillary Clinton, WikiLeaks. And it's just non-stop about the sexual harassment of women. Frankly, I don't know. I haven't clearly analyzed all the women that have come out and talked, but some of them are talking about him kissing them on the lips. And I have a filthy uncle with his lips are always wet, and he kisses everybody on the lips. Nobody wants him kissing them, but it's not sexual harassment, right? So I have a problem with how the media is slanting this very aggressively. Like today, they were talking about Donald Trump doing a press conference at his newly opened hotel in Washington. This thing's an old post office. He did an amazing thing renovating this building. It's fantastic. It's like an amazing old building. It was in ruin, and he turned it around to this fantastic hotel. And they're killing him for having a press conference at his hotel. And then they're killing him because he's asking for a tax abatement. Well, he's running a business. That's what businesses do, right? And then, the stuff about what really gets me is this tax return stuff, right? I don't know why it's anyone's business about how much tax anyone pays who's running for president. As long as they followed the law, it's no one's business. And what drives me nuts is when someone leaked, I think it was the New York Times, somebody leaked his tax return in the early 90s. I think it was 93 or 94, where he had a loss of $900 million. And they're saying that the analysis of that is that he could have potentially written off all his profits for the next 20 years. Potentially. That's not the case. But they kept going on saying he hasn't paid taxes for 20 years without actually knowing if he's not paid tax for the last 20 years. And by the way, writing off a tax loss is part of business. That's what happens all the time. If you lose $900 million in business, you can carry those losses forward. Just like if you make $900 million, you have to pay tax on it. But if you lose that money, it's a tax write-off. And they're just roasting this guy. So I have a problem with that stuff. That aside, he's a buffoon. But that aside, it's just completely unfair.
I agree with everything you've said. And on Tuesdays, we have this guy, Ari Goldkind, on who basically, and he summed it up perfectly yesterday, I thought. He said, just because everyone's on Trump for his taxes, and, he said right to Hillary in the debate, which most people thought he was an asshole for saying. But he's like, well, if you don't like it, you guys have had 30 years to change these laws. Like, I'm not doing anything illegal. Like, you've given me this opportunity to write off taxes in a way that isn't criminal. And then the way Ari put it is, if you're making 30 grand, 3 million, 30 million, 300 million, 3 billion, everyone does their taxes the same way. It's just a matter of you moving the decimal points. So you can't blame the guy for that if you're writing off losses too. And that's, that was a very interesting way for me to hear it. And I agree. Listen, I wouldn't vote for the guy. With that being said, I wouldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. I'd piss in the ballot box, I think. Like, I'm very angry by all of this. But the bullying that Donald Trump takes, the bullying that he is getting from the media, if that was skewered the other way and there was 95% of the rest of the media going on Clinton that way, it would be an outrage. You're being ruthless. You're making fun of her hair. There's such unnecessarily vicious comments towards him. And I think there's got to be a cleaner way to do this. It sets a terrible example for everyone following. I really believe that.
It's just very clear what the media wants, and and I think they should be impartial, right? And clearly they're not. And so in that way, I think that the election's rigged because the way that most people get their news from is from the television, and CNN is a huge factor there. And CNN's just every day, it's 95% of the broadcast. Donald Trump.
Brad Lamb, was news reporting ever impartial? Like, was there a time where people just came at 6 and 11 o'clock and it wasn't like this 24-hour news cycle and it wasn't all over Twitter? Was there a time where people just sort of reported the stories of the day, or did they always kind of have a slant or an agenda?
Well, before 100% news all day long, there was news hours, right? Like 6 and 11. And there was so much news to go through, they couldn't dwell on the minutia of stuff. Like the minutia they go through, like it's like not much happens in a news day, but I don't think it's enough news for a full day of news, right? So they try to fill that space with just more analysis of nonsense. And the problem is that, I mean, voting, people are naive. They are. And they believe, they're naive because these guys like Trump and Hillary Clinton can move the needle of their following based on saying some outrageous shit, right? So that people are naive. And the problem is that people believe, a lot of people believe that what they hear on television and radio and the newspaper is the truth. And it's actually an opinion. Someone's written it, right? It's not the truth.
Do you think that it will be as big as a landslide as they're predicting now, from what I've seen as the latest?
You know what? I really don't know. I think there's a potential for a landslide, but I also think that I look at Brexit and how that was supposed to be a landslide for staying in the European Union. It was a landslide the other way around, and everyone was surprised. And so I think that the problem today is that the way that people poll might not necessarily capture the reality of what's going on. And I also think that there's certain
anonymity. Essentially,
right.
There's anonymity to a polling booth, so it could really be different than what someone would say.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think that there's some people, maybe some women who, and men too, but I think more so maybe for Donald Trump, it could be women if he wins, that are saying he's an idiot, he's a misogynist, I can't vote for a guy like that. But maybe they're also concerned about other things that Donald Trump says he's going to change, which, by the way, I don't think much is going to change regardless of who comes into power. But I think that is possible, that maybe there's people who are lying about who they're going to vote for.
I noticed we do some tiny investments with just an investment firm. Not a lot, trust me. I wish I had money. But and there was like a mass email that went out to say to meet with all clients who with post-election sort of results, and let's go through, where we think the markets will be at. Is this something that depending on who is in power, could affect real estate markets and that type of stuff? Like,
no.
you don't get it, that it won't affect anything.
Listen, you know what? It's very hard for a president to get anything done. Like, unless you control both houses, it's like almost.
That's
impossible.
the other thing. You can't get anything done. Yeah.
No.
Abdul, did you have?
No.
Okay.
I'm just agreeing. Yeah, that's just the way it is in the States. You can't really change anything. And also, like he was saying about polls in Canada, we had the same thing too. The last election was it was neck and neck between all the parties, and the Liberals just took it.
Blew it away.
That's a good point, actually.
We had the same thing in Quebec too. With the last election, everyone thought the PQ, the Separatist Party, was going to win again, and they just got blown out of the water by the Liberals. So yeah polls are all about. And what they do when they take polls too is they go to specific demographics and people. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything, because if they're polling a region that is going to go for them, or a age or whatever, it could be all skewed by so many different things. So yeah,
they are. I mean, they do. They do. I watch a ton of CNN, but if you do watch it, they go for black voters between 18 and 25. They're pretty specific about it, and they're breaking it down. But I just think no one's hit a polling like a pre-analysis of the election through polling accurately in a bunch of years. So maybe he blows it out. I don't know.
Well, the interesting thing is with polls, like you see, some people want to be a part of the popular vote, so they'll also sway their vote that way. Like, which is another interesting thing the media can do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, if it's 55% now favor Trump, I got to be a part of that group. Like, they don't even fucking know. Like, it's a shame. It's a shame that no one really actually has these informed decisions at all. So, but it won't. But so the housing markets, that type of stuff doesn't. Because I wanted to tie that back to real estate.
You know what? There's. I mean, so Donald Trump says he's going to rip up NAFTA, but he's not going to rip up NAFTA. I mean, like, Canada has we have a deficit we buy more from the States than we trade. Why is that a bad deal? Right. I think that maybe Mexico, like Donald Trump definitely has a bone to pick with Mexico. And that's the other thing that bugs me about that is that I just read this amazing book on Mexico, which is a narco state. It's really not that far from being, almost a Somalia in terms of just lack of law and order. Like,
it's scary.
It's in a terrible, terrible state. And the border has to be like there's one section of the border. I was reading this book A Canadian wrote it, and it was about maybe a few 100-mile section of the border. It could have been a bit more than that, but it was one part of Arizona, not a state. It's not the state, but a district of Arizona, and they have over 1 million people cross a year, and they catch 450,000. That's just one part of that enormous border. Like, it's millions of people a year coming through, and who knows who they are? Who knows? So it is a huge problem. I don't think a lot of Americans in the North know, but if you go down and talk to people in those border states, it's a huge problem for them.
You're even saying huge like him now.
Huge. It's huge.
Brad J. Lamb is hanging out with us. TorontoCondos.com if you're looking to even just sell your home or, go there and find a great Lamb Standard condominium. The CMHC will be issuing a red alert. I read just recently, and I sent it to your man Ryan, and then Ryan sent it back to me, which means the CMHC feels there is a very strong risk of problems on the horizon. While it is not predicting a crash, the evidence of problematic conditions has become high. Do you agree with the evaluation of the Canadian housing market?
No, I disagree. I just did I just met with a hedge fund. Sorry, it was a bank. It was a big, I won't say the bank. It was a big British bank.
Okay.
That asked me to speak to, I don't know, there were like 20 people in Toronto and a whole bunch in New York.
Charge them a lot of money?
No, I just do it because I'm nice.
Okay, I would have charged them let me be your agent. I'll take a cut. Okay.
Wow, what are they going to pay me anyway? It's not going to change my life. They're not going to pay me $200,000.
No, change your agent different.
Anyway, the one of the economists of the CMHC was there, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Honest to God, they don't. They just there's the information just isn't out there for them to get. So they can only look at the reaction. They can only see what's happened and not what's going to happen. And so this is the reality is that real estate. You can go to 100 cities in the world that are similar in quality to Toronto versus Canada, right? So you can look at Copenhagen and Stockholm and Oslo and Helsinki, and I can list just hundreds of them. Okay, and every single one of those cities has the exact same problem we have right now. Exact same problem. It's not a Canada problem. It's a world problem. There's a problem with poverty. There's a problem with people between 20 and 30 that don't make enough money. Why? I don't know. Possibly didn't take the right thing in school. Maybe they didn't think about what they needed to do to fit into today's working society. I don't know what the problem is, but it's a problem, and it's not going to be solved through housing by government manipulating these little levers they think is going to change something. Listen, you want to buy a house in Toronto, forget about it. You got to be a millionaire. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen again. There's no solution to buying a detached house in Toronto that can happen anytime in the next 20 years. It's a ship that's just sailed and gone by. And now we have to talk about what we can do. So what we can do is we can convince people they need to live in condominiums. I'm serious.
But I agree
not because I sell them.
No.
I don't. But I'm just telling you, it's the reality. Like you go to Frankfurt, okay? Or Munich. Nobody lives in a house. They live in a fucking apartment. They can't afford a house.
New York's a good example.
Of course. Yeah. So CMHC, don't listen to a word that CMHC has to say. They don't know what they're talking about. The reality is housing, like in Vancouver and Toronto and other cities like that, Calgary perhaps not anymore, but those two cities for sure, you want to live in a house, you can spend $1.2 million to get in. And that's out of reach of everybody, unless you're wealthy. So now you got to look at the alternatives. The alternatives: live in Hamilton, live in Scarborough, live in Barrie, or areas around there.
And same with other provinces, like live outside of the urban centers,
of course,
essentially.
Yeah. Or live in an apartment, or you're a tenant for life. That's the future.
And you don't want to be a tenant for life.
Well, there's ways to. I mean, like there's a commercial on television. I don't know which it's an insurance company or something company like that. You talk about when you start to save money. If you start to save money at 40, you're going to be worse off than you start to save money at 20. So instead of leasing a fucking awesome car and renting an awesome apartment and wearing expensive clothes and taking out babies to bottle nights, if you truncate that down to something you can manage and save some of your money when you're 20 and 21. Save money when you're in, before you graduate high school. Get a fucking job and work 12 hours a week and save money.
But see, and that, back to sort of the youth and, that 20 to 30 age group right now. And this is me just being 43 who saved money and was very good with money. I think everybody wants to be. I'm looking at the camera because we put this stuff on YouTube later, where the younger audience really is. Everybody wants to be like super famous, super wealthy, super DJ Khaled or Kim Kardashian right now. Like no one wants to take that extra $500 a month and instead of going to a 5-star restaurant, which I probably didn't go to my first 5-star restaurant until I was 35 years old. Like it took me a long time to actually go, maybe once a year on a birthday or something. Everybody wants to live that lifestyle right now, and I think so many people are going to regret that 15 years down the road. I really do, that they're living too much of a high life. And it's great. I know it's good for the economy to spend money as well. That I kind of believe in. But you got to put some of it away, put it into the investment side of your life, which is a home. Would you agree that maybe people are living too out there, too open, like spending too much?
I did a seminar series a few years ago. It was called The Condominium Millionaire. And it was the idea, didn't have to be condominiums, it was about how to save money at a younger age and eventually get into home ownership and multiple home ownership. And, I think that if young people, they're going to have to acquire a taste for fancy feast on Triscuit, because that's going to be a lot of retirements. They're going to be eating cat food. Seriously, they will be.
No one thinks of their future. And no. I get so deep, but, now that I have a kid, man, I'm so afraid to spend money. I just bought some shoes online, but sweet. But I tell my wife, I'm like, you never know. I never know when the radio could end. I never, I want to do it for the future, because people they struggle so much, especially with advancing medicines. They're only going to live longer too. They need money to live. You need money to at least have some quality when you're living longer. Like all, no one's thinking.
You know what, Todd? What you have to do is make a plan. It's that simple. You sit down. You're 20 years old, you're in your first year of university, your first year of college, or whatever. Maybe you're a welder and you're just got your welding ticket. Whatever it is. Figure out what you need, do a budget for what you need to live, and take at least 20% of your money and put it aside, right? So if you have to live with your parents, if you can stand living with your parents, live with your parents for an extra 4 or 5 years. Who fucking cares? There's a guy in my office who's 32. He loves his mom's cooking. He says he's never going to leave. He could. He's got tons of money now. He's been working for me for 7 years. He's a millionaire. And he lives at home with his mom. Pays no rent. She cooks for him. She does. Wears amazing suits. Has a nice car. He owns 4 or 5 properties, right? And he's and he came to me. He didn't have any money. He was like 22 or 23 years old when he started working, which is very young for a real estate agent to have anyone respect you at that age, because it's just hard to sell $1 million, even $100,000 properties when you look like a kid, right? But this is an example of a guy that said, listen, I could have more fun by getting my own pad and doing my thing, but he instead is cutting back his expenses, living a simpler life. And by the time he's 35, he can do whatever he wants. He'll be worth $2 or $3 million. It's not that hard.
It's really, Abdul, are you good with your like?
Man, I bought land when I was young. I own land.
Good.
Yeah. That's as much as I'm good with money.
But still, that's.
But that was my thing. I couldn't afford a home. I couldn't afford it. It was too expensive, and it was like, I was looking at some of my friends were buying homes because I was right. It was right at the time when they dropped the interest rate, so everyone was buying houses at that time. I mean, I kind of look back and go, maybe I should have, but I was like, I'll just buy some land and then just kick it at my folks. I live on top of my folks, and they got an apartment building, and I live in their building. So, I'd pay rent, but they're not ridiculous. Like, they're not ripping me off. But that's you got to do it, and exactly what you're saying. I know it's crazy. It's the way it is, and I don't think it'll burst. Like, everyone keeps talking about this bubble bursting. I mean, Canada's a lot more regulated, and they kind of govern everything better than the States does. So I don't see anything bursting. I don't know if I'm sure you know more on this than I do.
Well, here's what I'd say, because I agree with. By the way, where's your land?
It's in Quebec. Not a good option.
Quebec?
In Chateauguay. It's just a suburb of Montreal.
So sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Oh man. There you go. Can you
I
sell it for me? Can you get me some profit? Dude, I'm sitting on this thing.
can sell ice Eskimos. No, seriously, I want to be clear about this. When I went off on the CMHC, I want to be clear. Real estate does not always go up. Stock markets don't always go up. We're going to have a time in the future where real estate prices fall. I can foresee how that could happen. And when it does happen, people lose money. And it's going to be unpleasant. But that does happen every, 8 to 20 years. It does happen. But where we are currently right now, I personally don't see anything on the horizon And the reason why I don't see it is the United States now has $20 trillion in debt. Obama shepherded their economy in 8 years from 10 trillion to 20 trillion. He's doubled their debt in 8 years. And is the country better for it? I don't think it is. So I'm not blaming him. I think that he was involved in a very hard time, right? But the bottom line is, if you look at how much their budget is and how much they can afford as interest on their budget, they can't afford 4% interest rates. They can't afford 5. They can barely afford 2, which they're selling bonds for 1 or 2%, some cases 0.5%, depending on the term. So the United States drives interest rate policy in the world. I don't believe there's a chance interest rates can rise. And it's funny to me because you hear Janet Yellen say, yeah, in the next summer, we're probably going to have interest rates rise. And she said that, and the predecessors said that every year, and all that's happened is they've gone down. And same thing with the Bank of Canada.
Good to know. It's time for a game, by the way. It's time for a game. Here we go with Abdul Butt. We're going to play a game here.
Oh, we're playing a game.
Yeah, we're playing a game.
Brad J. Lamb's receipts.
You want to know what's your receipts today? Mine is like I got $8.99 flowers for my wife. That was my receipt today. I got some gas at 7-Eleven for I think $23. I want to see what Brad J. Lamb's receipts are. Oh, taxi receipts. All right. Just simple taxi receipts.
And they're blank on the back.
Oh, they give you, you just got to write.
I guess I have to fill those out.
I always ask them to fill it out because then I feel guilty. I go home and even though I put the right price, I'm like, one day if I get audited, they're going to see the same handwriting. Like, do I switch pens like on the receipts?
I doubt they're going to one by one go through your taxi receipts.
Okay, yeah. Good. Well, they're all on Uber now anyway, to be honest. And then before Brad J. Lamb goes, TorontoCondos.com, we have our game that I promised you we were going to play this week.
Silence.
What's going on, Bilal? Way to go, buddy. Way to go, pal.
Oh, man.
Would Brad invest in this?
Abdul Butt is our co-host of the day. Before we get to my friends at Jesse Galao to talk about the NBA season that started and the Raptors home premiere tonight, and then Tyler Morrison just dropping by to say hi. And then we got some basketball podcasters here that we'll give a quick shout out to at some point. You could have been a dragon, we basically feel like. I'm sure you could have. You have some cake, I'm sure. And while you're a wonderful developer and great in the real estate world, we thought we'd pitch you some ideas again to see if you would invest in us. Abdul, do you have an idea that you would like to pitch to Brad?
Oh, man. Okay, Brad, I'm a comedian, all right? So don't take this seriously. But I know this has been a very serious half hour, but let's loosen this up.
This helps. This helps right here. Right here. This will help.
Yeah, there you go. Helps for pitches. That's exactly. All right, here's my idea, buddy. Toilet paper commercials, right? Toilet paper, they're always marketing the kittens as the toilet paper is soft. It's soft as kittens.
Yes.
What if we invest in a kitten farm? We sell the kittens to clean yourself with, and because kittens clean themselves, it's the world's first renewable toilet paper.
Hey,
how about that?
That's a good idea.
Hey?
Wow, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. You like that, eh?
I'm all in on that idea.
There you go.
Big money on that one.
Big money. Bilal, you nervous?
All right, so here's my idea. I've been taking the streetcar it's a long story, but I've started taking the streetcar to work because I don't want to pay for parking, and I'm still figuring out the Metro Pass thing. But it's cold outside, and it was so cold I took the path from about Union Station to St. Andrews Station, and I couldn't figure it out. So the easiest thing is to go outside. So I was thinking, what if there were little heat pads that you could just attach to different parts of your body to keep you warm? So just sort of like another level of sort of heating, like so like, I don't know, like Hot Pockets, but for your body.
Okay, that is a shit idea. Get your head out of your ass, okay?
At the starting, I thought he was going to ask him to invest in a map. He was like, I'm trying to take I can't find my way, and the station is like, can you buy me a map?
So what's your idea?
Okay, this is a legitimate idea. So I'll throw in my a good sponsor plug to tie in with this one. Carnivore Wine. Okay, they encourage you to barbecue and have a wine, whatever's cool. So when I barbecue, and I love to barbecue. Do you like to barbecue, Brad?
I do.
Yeah, you're a bar. Yeah, I think you told us that like a couple months ago. when it does get colder, I do find it a bit of a discouragement to go outside in the winter to barbecue and like maintain that burger or that steak, or whatever. So I want to create within the barbecue surface, kind of like they do with the rotisserie for chicken. It's an automatic flipper. Like, so they invent like a flipper, and then it's just every 2 minutes it flips your burger for you. And then, or if you have a steak, you can time it exactly to your barbecue. You can go out and just go in 8 minutes, pick it up, and go inside. Like, I feel like there's something there.
Like a robotic barbecue flipper?
Yeah.
Dude, it could even have a thermometer inside to check the temperature.
And then it goes to your app.
And oh my God.
Lets you know where it's at. We should probably even be saying this on radio.
Yeah, shh.
Yeah, would you invest?
That's a moneymaker.
Yeah, that's a moneymaker.
I think it's a tremendous idea.
But
Okay.
I have no money for you.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
Go out and do it yourself first.
Brad, I love hanging out with you, man. We didn't even get to the Raptors. Well, I got a better idea. I'll mooch some tickets off you, and then we'll talk about our experience of the Raptors after that. How does that sound? You think they're going to do well this year, though, real quick?
I think they're going to do roughly like they did last year. I think Cleveland is, they're too good.
They're monsters.
Yep.
They're too good. Well, you're a monster of a developer, and I say that in the best way possible because you're that good at what you do. TorontoCondos.com for all your information. Brad J. Lamb Realty. Brad J. Lamb here on the show every Wednesday at 5, and you'll see him everywhere across all the Canadian media outlets now go to him because of us. That's how it works. No, I appreciate you being here.
The Todd Shapiro Show. Turn up your speakers, especially if you're over 65. SiriusXM 168, Canada Laughs.